Hey everyone, Christian back here again today with another whiteboard session. As you can see over here, we're going to be talking about some free weights versus machines more specifically. And we're going to get started over here. I'm going to run you guys what exactly are the differences between free weight and machines. Okay. So we have fixed versus non-fixed range of motion. When you go to your gym, you usually see like a fixed chest press or like a fixed seated row. What that means exactly when we're talking about fixed is just one straight line when you're pulling or when you're pushing. So we have fixed versus non-fixed. When you're using free weights, say barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, anything of the sorts, you're in more of a non-fixed range of motion, meaning that you're guiding the weights. You can go more or less, completely up to you, versus a machine where it's stuck in one fixed range of motion or one area when you're doing that. So what does this mean exactly? When you're using a fixed range of motion or like a machine, you're not going to be using as much stabilizers. It's a lot more guided versus when you use free weights, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbell, and that things of sorts. It's not guided, so you more control where the weight goes, and you determine if it's close to your body, far away from your body, the angle of where you're pressing or pulling. You control all of that, where the machine shows you where to go essentially. All you have to do is put the force in. So what we're going to be talking about is when should we use free weights versus machines. We're going to touch over a couple of demographics real quick. We'll start over here. Beginners. Personally, beginners, especially when starting off, you should have someone to guide you through the movements. And then when you're beginners, you want to make sure that you have someone guiding you through these movements so you don't pick up bad habits or learn to do it incorrectly, because that's going to be hard to fix. It is possible to fix, but it'll be a little bit harder to fix. For this reason, if you have no limitations at all, I highly recommend using free weights in the beginning, obviously under the supervision of someone to make sure you're doing it right. Here we're going to be talking about the elderly. So this one, we're going to be talking about two things, right? So sometimes elderly, they can be very limited as to what they can do, and some elderly have a little bit more ability to do certain things, right? So this is going to be completely circumstantial depending on who you're dealing with exactly. So assessing your ability to move through like a range of motion, things through like a squat, pressing overhead and stuff like that, is going to be completely dependent on whether you would do free weights versus machines. If you do not have a lot of motion, obviously we're going to start you off on a fixed machine, especially if you haven't been doing anything before for like many years. Starting off on a fixed machine is a lot safer for that person, so we'll be doing that for sure. And obviously, regardless of the person's age, you want to be able to increase the range of motion, so working on things like stretching and combination. With starting them off on machines would be very well advised. Injured, next up. So when you're injured, it all, like I said, depends on your injury, but starting off generally with machines would be a lot safer, because it's guided fixed range of motion, so you can more so work through the range of motion you're comfortable with, whether that be no matter where you have injury, your leg, your upper body, your arm, wherever. Working through that range of motion with a very light load. Sometimes even cable machines or fixed machines, seated machines start off at like near 5 pounds. You can work your way through that, adding slowly more range of motion onto the machine, because sometimes they're a little bit adjustable at the top, and then working through that, adding more weights, and then eventually working your way through a few weights. Again, should be your end goal for as someone who's injured, working with your free weights and be able to do stuff unguided and building that strength up in that ligament, that tendon, whatever it may be. We're going to talk about bodybuilders, right? So a lot of times you see bodybuilders, really big guys. So when would you use free weights or machines? Or maybe you're interested in bodybuilding yourself. You can use a great combination of both. See, the thing is, when it comes to bodybuilders, you don't want to get injured, right? Because you're carrying on that mass. You want to have a long career and be able to train without many injuries. So a good combination of both, maybe having your first compound movement be more so free weight, heavy loaded, maybe stuff like a deadlift or a squat or a chest press, and then doing your accessories with fixed machines. Obviously, like stuff like bicep curls, stuff like that, you will be able to get away with using dumbbells and stuff like that, but doing things like hamstring curls, quad extensions, stuff like that for extra volume, maybe you would want to use a more so of a machine compared to a free weight. After you do your compound movement, I would recommend doing one compound movement and then the machines for your accessories. Here we're going to be talking about, on this other side, is one better than the other? So what are exactly the benefits? So as I discussed a little bit in the beginning, safety is going to be one of the main priorities for no matter any one of these demographics, right? So using generally machines is going to be a lot more safer in the beginning, especially if you're not supervised. Like I said, I recommend that if you're a beginner, injured, or any of the things of the sorts, I recommend you have some supervision from someone guiding you through that. So ultimately, I would say machines would be a lot more safer, especially if you're just starting off by yourself. When you have natural movement, right? So we all have this natural movement. We're not more so stuck in like a fixed range of motion when it comes to life. You lift up boxes, you lift up different things. You're moving around. Nothing's always just a straight line of motion. For that reason, I would more so recommend working more into free weights, dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, and adding in a little more ranges of motion, things like twisting, and not exactly following that straight line of motion, just so you can strengthen your tendons, your ligaments, and stuff like that. And that's where we get into strength generally. Machines are good for strength. Both are good for strength actually, as long as you're tracking your progress throughout time. Say you start off at a 4x10 on a seated row at 70 pounds, working your way up to 80, 90, so forth, fixing the rep scheme when you get to a plateau, working your way up again. So both are really good for strength, even with barbells and dumbbells. Eventually you might, if your end goal is strength, you will probably get to the point where you can lift all the weight on the machine. And then you kind of have to move into free weights at that point if you haven't already, even just touch bases with it. So when it comes to overall strength, I would recommend going with stuff like barbells, kettlebells, and dumbbells, just because you're not more so limited as to the weight that you can do. When you go to a gym, you'll have access to like literally like as much weight as you need. So that would be recommended for strength. And I would say the end goal for everyone, whether beginner, elderly, injured, or a bodybuilder, would be to be able to and learn how to use the free weights properly. So just in order you can strengthen your ligaments, tendons, and grow your muscles, which is most people's goals. Just so you can be able to do that and not so just be reliant on the machines and get comfortable with the machines. Spice it up a little bit, add in the free weights, add in a kettlebell, dumbbell, or a barbell movement here and there, and get used to it, learn how to do it properly, get someone's supervision, and then yeah, go from there. Alright guys, it's been another whiteboard session. That was free weights versus machines, and hope you guys have a good day. See you.